You keep saying, I've tried everything. But have you ever tried releasing everything? Have you ever shattered so completely that the only thing left to grasp was nothing but Him? You planned, you calculated, you worked, you pushed, you tightened your grip, convinced that if you just did more, tried harder, forced longer, everything would finally click into place. But it didn't. It unraveled. And the more you tried to command your life, the deeper you sank into it. Arabi once wrote, "The one who clings to the reins of fate is like a man trying to ride the wind. He believes he's guiding it, but the wind mocks his grasp." Look at yourself. You've lost sleep. You've lost calm. Maybe you've lost people, all because you tried to control what was never yours. Here's the truth. Control isn't strength. Control is fear disguised as responsibility. Real strength lives in surrender. God says in the Quran, whoever places their trust in Allah, He is enough for them. But you didn't rely on Him. You arranged your life around God instead of with Him. You drew blueprints on paper while forgetting that the sky writes its own decree. And now you are exhausted, not because life is unbearable, but because you keep acting like you're the author when you were only meant to be the seeker. So let this moment humble you. Let the illusion crumble, because the second you release your grip is the moment He begins to lift you. People told you, be strong, keep going, fight harder. But no one told you the sacred truth. Sometimes breaking is sacred. Sometimes when your knees touch the ground, it isn't failure. It's alignment. You've spent your whole life climbing hills against winds never meant to be resisted. And now you're falling, but falling into what? Not ruin, not darkness. You're falling into Al-Wakil, the one who carries without complaint, the one who takes over when you surrender. The Quran says, Allah is enough as a disposer of affairs. So why does the fear linger? Because letting go feels like dying. Because your ego warns, if you stop holding everything together, everything will collapse. But here's the reality. You're not holding it together. You never have. The breath in your lungs, not yours. The pulse in your chest, a loned rhythm. You're only a traveler, and He is the path. Ibn Arabi said, "True surrender isn't passive. It is the soul's bravest act, trusting the unseen because it is felt beyond sight. And if you're still trembling, still unsure, then remember this. The hands you fall into are not empty. They belong to the most gentle, the most wise, the most loving. You kept trying to pry open doors, pounding until your knuckles bled, begging life to cooperate, chasing people who never recognized you. But the moment you released everything, the silence wasn't hollow. It was alive. It held something you'd never felt before. Space. The kind of space where God does His work. The Prophet said, if you relied on Allah as He truly deserves, He would provide for you like He provides for the birds. They leave with empty stomachs and return full. No maps, no certainty, just wings and trust. And suddenly you understood the job that never replied, the relationship that shattered, the dream that cracked. They weren't rejections, they were redirections. Your failures weren't failures. They were filters clearing away what was never destined for you, so what was destined could finally approach. But this only happens when you stop pretending to be God and start being His servant. Ibn Arabi said, the servant who recognizes his place no longer struggles with destiny. He follows it the way a lover follows the scent of his beloved. And then life begins responding. Not because it suddenly became simple, but because you finally stopped resisting the rhythm of the one who composed it. This is what it means to walk with trust, not waiting for proof, but moving with the certainty that even your pain is part of the path. You thought trusting God meant doing nothing, waiting quietly, floating like a feather in the breeze. But genuine trust, tawakkul, isn't inactive surrender. It is intimate action. It's the warrior sharpening his blade while knowing victory descends from heaven. It's Maryam, alone and trembling, pushing against the palm tree in labor, while God commands, shake the tree. Why ask her to move a tree when she was already worn down? Because trust doesn't mean you stop moving. It means you move knowing you are never moving alone. It isn't, I'll sit and wait for life to fix itself. It's, I'll step forward even through the fire because I'm not stepping alone. The Prophet tied his camel, then said, trust Allah. Ibn Arabi said, true tawakkul isn't the death of action. It is the death of anxiety within action. And once this truth sinks deep, you walk differently. You stop begging for validation. You stop chasing what runs away. You stop fearing loss because you know that what is yours by decree cannot be taken, and what is not yours cannot be forced to stay. This is not passivity. This is alignment. It is moving with the breeze of Al-Hakim, lifted by the mercy of Ar-Rahman. At first you trusted because you were drowning. Life shattered you, and you clung to God like a man grasping driftwood in a storm. But slowly, trust stopped being desperation and became delight. You realized life is far too vast, too alive, too beautifully unpredictable to be managed by human hands. And you smiled, because the day you released control, life began unfolding like a love letter written just for you. The Quran says, nothing will ever happen to us except what Allah has written for us. He is our protector. You began to enjoy uncertainty. You stopped fearing delays. You even learned to appreciate the days when everything fell apart, because that was when God rearranged something better. You move like a traveler who knows every wrong turn is part of the right journey. You found peace in waiting, comfort in the unknown, beauty in being surprised by his wisdom. Ibn Arabi wrote, the one who trusts does not hurry. He watches destiny unfold like a lover watching a rose bloom. And this is the transition from fear to wonder, from clinging to grace, to understand that even in sorrow, even in loss, you are never forsaken, because he is not only your refuge in storms, he is the sky above every storm, and trusting him has become your joy. Look at your hands. What are you still clutching? What fear? What illusion of control? What burden that was never yours to bear? This is the final test of trust, not in theory, but in practice. Because now you understand, God doesn't need your plan. He needs your permission. Permission to move through your life. Permission to guide you where your imagination would never dare wander. But as long as you grip the what-ifs, as long as you delay surrender, you remain trapped in a life that was never meant for you. God doesn't act when you say, I'm ready. He acts when you show you're ready by letting go. Ibn Arabi wrote, the delay is not from him. It is your grip that blocks the gift. So let me ask you, what if the very thing you're terrified to lose is the very thing preventing your life from truly beginning? What if the door you've been begging God to open has always been open, but your hands were too full to turn the handle? The Quran says, whoever trusts in Allah, He will make a way for him and provide from where he never imagined. So I'm not asking whether you believe in God. I'm asking, do you believe him enough to finally open your hands? Because until you do, your story cannot start. If these words reached you in a moment of quiet breaking, then maybe this wasn't just a video. Maybe it was a sign. Don't scroll past it the way you scroll past your own soul. Subscribe to Heart's Whisper, not for content, but for reminders your heart forgot it needed. And before you leave, answer one question in the comments. What are you still holding on to, even though you know deep inside that God already asked you to release it?